Hello. I'm making a video. There are so many things that I need to talk about that everything goes through my head at once, and then I'm not focused enough on one thing. I have to sort this out. So, usually, when I make a video, first I sit there for a while and think about it, but I already did one attempt and then I wasn't focused very well. So this is my second try now. um, there's so much going on right now that is so incredibly frightening, it's beyond words. This causes me enormous anxiety. What's going on? That Elon Musk was threatened, his life being threatened. That's very, very scary. And I already thought, Elon Musk and Donald Trump, those are the number one targets, number two people, number one targets, both of them, for the corporate agenda. Okay, so, and the corporate agenda is in the whole world. They have their dirty hands in everything. They have their hands in Russia, everywhere, and even before even during the Soviet Union, I bet they had their dirty hands in that, because those people, the apparatchiks, they always traveled outside into the West. They had their businesses going on. They have so much money and on cost of the public of the Soviet countries, the average people working very hard for a capped amount of money. They're not allowed to jack the prices up, that's good in one way, but it was so capped during the Soviet Union, of course, that individual people were not allowed to even make a lot of money. So it was very leveled out. But this made the apparatchiks extremely rich. So extremely rich. I'm sure they're trillionaires, but they don't disclose that. There are people that are completely hidden. Wealthy people that are completely hidden, that would never come to the public and declare what they have. So there are only a few people that are public with how much money they have, and people that are in the public eye, and people that don't hide or lie about anything. But I think the vast majority of rich people are hiding, like behind facades and so on, and they don't disclose how much money they have, particularly when they have made that money with very shady businesses, like the Soviet Union, the people in charge, the apparatchiks. Vladimir Putin is one of them, and that Volodymyr Zelensky is probably another one of those, totally vested interest. So I like Vladimir Putin though, because he cares about animals. He saves beluga whales. He has compassion. And what I hear now from Paul, what he reads me from the news, that doesn't sound very good. That sounds very unsettling. That Vladimir Putin suddenly in this situation is going into the hospital and someone else taking over his seat temporarily. So all of this doesn't sound very good, So because I believe that Vladimir Putin is a good person. He happened to be one of the apparatchiks making a lot of money. So, and everyone needs to ask themselves, in a given situation like this, would you pass that up and say, no, I'm not gonna be an apparatchik. I don't want to make that much money. I don't want to be going to other countries, traveling and so on. I just want to be one of the workers, the I guess they call them the Bolsheviks. So one of the peasants, basically, in that communist regime. It's not real communism. So it's a misunderstanding. So they call it communism. Real communism is if everyone shares everything and there's nobody that cashes in. Okay, so if there are people that cash in, and in this case a handful of people, the apparatchiks, the apparatus of the system, the ones that run things, then it's an oligarchical system of dictatorship, and that's what it was. And they enriched themselves on cost of the public. But the public still had it light years better than, let's say, real poor people in a capitalist society. This is a fact. This is a fact. Talk to any one of those people, and they'll tell you that they got their teeth fixed, and they had their free healthcare insurance, and they had things taken care of. So a lot of them, when the wall came down, they were clueless even on how to take care of themselves, because they were taken care of before. So yin and yang was this. I mean, after the wall came down, it went crashing into an abyss. Russia and many Soviet countries where their kids, teenage, and even children, even like under 10 years old, that are on the street, homeless, fending for themselves, try to comfort each other. They're sniffing glue. I saw documentaries on that. It's horrible. They have no idea, their parents or their grandparents have no idea how to take care of that situation, being thrown into a capitalist system like cold turkey, where they have absolutely no idea how to take care of themselves now. So this is really tragic. So in that sense, that very controlled and kept society and system that was really controlling every aspect of life and people, which is, on one side it is problematic, on the other side it makes sure that people do not fall through that grid. People are taken care of. Nobody is going hungry. Nobody is becoming homeless. But a lot of these people, they had to work very hard. Even dentists worked hard, and they didn't make very money on that. They were not allowed to make very money on this. So everything was very controlled. The labor was very controlled, and the people in charge, they cashed in on this. So because of that's not a real communist system. It cannot be called a communist system. China is even further away from communism. So, but they label themselves communist, but they're not. So Kim Jong-un probably thinks they're communists. No, that's just a tyrant dictatorship. That's all it is. It is a ruthless, iron fist dictatorship of unimaginable proportions. A terror dictatorship. That's what Kim Jong-un is, North Korea. It's horror. Worse than Adolf Hitler, trust me on that. What they do to people, they have a prison camp where they breed humans to be in that prison camp. There are people that have never seen freedom their entire life. They were born there. They were tortured if they don't work real hard and fast, and if they if they don't snitch on someone else or someone, if they're helping someone else, or if they are in some way deviant to the catering to that tyrant dictatorship, if they're doing something that they get tortured. There was a guy who escaped from the prison camp in North Korea. I mean, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. What he has been through. He was born there. He doesn't have any connection to his parents. There's no emotional connection. His parents have no emotional connection to each other. They were brought together to breed. They're farming humans, and then they exploit them horrifically. It's just like cattle slaughter, pig slaughter, and all of that is unacceptable. This is unacceptable, to exploit any living being. Okay. This guy, he got free because there was a man who cared about him in that camp. They were friends. They had to be careful about being seen as close, just as friends, being seen as close. Because that's always, when people bond together, that becomes a threat to the dictatorship. So, but they had moments where they were able to talk to each other, and the friend had been in South Korea before in his life. I guess he must have been older or something, and he was probably a political dissident, or as they call it, I think. So, and he cared. And he cared about this guy, and he felt really sorry for him. So he said, I'm willing to offer myself, my body, to let you out into freedom. They went at night over, there's a documentary film, you can watch it. They went at night, they got out of there, still within that compound of that high security prison. It's really a concentration camp of unimaginable proportions, worse than anything else that has ever existed on this planet. And they got out, they ran off, and they ran as far away from that facility, still within that compound, but they got away so far away that the other people were sleeping, the prison guards weren't paying attention, and they got away to the far corner, and there was this electric fence around it, real serious electric fence that nobody gets through alive. Okay. So the friend, the caring Samaritan, he said, I'm going to lay my body over the lower bar of that electric fence, and I want you to climb over me as fast as you can. He did. He died, and the guy climbed over him real quickly and ran and ran and ran and ran and ran and ran. He got into South Korea. First time in his life he even saw free people. He saw people dressed differently and people well fed, and he was absolutely shocked. He was shaken by all of this. And then he got to talk to people. They brought him to police, and they brought him to news people, and he told this whole story of how he grew up there in that prison camp, that concentration camp. Really dramatic. Horrific what's going on in the world. Most people don't even know. Anyone who can even go over there to North Korea and have anything to do with that Kim Jong-un, anyone, any football star or whatever, to go over there and be friends with that dictator and then say he's just a kid? No, that guy is a ruthless, bloodthirsty dictator. He has absolutely no empathy for anyone. He has killed innocent people, massive amounts. He's probably killed more innocent people than anyone in history. Okay. And brutally killed them. He tortures people. He tortured his own family members, his uncles and so on, because he felt threatened by them. I don't know, they were looking at him the wrong way, and he felt like, oh, what if they assassinate him? He's full of fear also. Fear makes people have no compassion, of course. So that's Jiddu Krishnamurti talks about this. North Korea is part of the corporate agenda. Okay. Many capitalists in China capitalize on these concentration camps. They think they have nothing to do with it, but in a roundabout way, they profit from it because they buy the products, or they have the products even made in North Korea, in those prison labor camps. They make products there, and I hate to think about that, how many of the products we buy on the internet may actually have come from the prison camps in North Korea. So it's just horror to think about it. So I don't want to. I can't even wrap my head around it. That I will use a product that was made through such exploitation. Donald Trump wanted to phase away from that. So Joe Biden picks it right back up because he's corporate agenda. Their corporate agenda, the people in the White House are completely 100% corporate agenda. They're only interested in money. The corporate agenda works that way. They work with anything and everyone who is a corrupt criminal or dictator or has cheap labor camps like this where they get their products really, really cheap. And then they can resell it and make a whole bunch of profits on it. That's happening in China, of course. That's why China does not want to get rid of Kim Jong-un. He has the cheap products flowing to him all the time, non-stop. And the corporate agenda here in the United States is totally tethered to all of this. And worldwide, this is what's going on. And they don't want to let go of their money-making machine. So anyone who's good, who's a do-gooder, they want to get rid of them because they would stand in the way of that money-making machine that exploits animals and humans. Okay. So that's why I'm absolutely terribly worried for Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Absolutely terrified. If people hurt Elon Musk, I don't even want to say it, then they're hurting the very person that feeds them, the very hand that feeds them, that feeds us, that saves us, that rescues us. Without these good people that are also extremely intelligent and powerful in what they do, Without people like this, the world will go down the drain. I can't even think about it. What could happen without people like this that come here to, like big nannies, to help us? If you have a bunch of toddlers that don't know what they're doing, and you shoot the nannies, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think the toddlers are going to do? The toddlers they're going to kill each other. They're going to eat each other. They have no idea what they're doing. They're just like, I'm hungry. I need to eat. There's no food. I'll eat the other toddler, the weakest one or whatever. There was a cat once. I don't know. I wasn't sure that I should tell the story. Just as a real thing that actually happened. There was a cat in Germany. They have these windows that open up like this, which is very dangerous. Very dangerous. I kept telling my mother, don't have the window like this, because the cats would go through that. So this triangular space, they can get caught in this. So what happened one time, mother cat, who had babies hanging on her, because of the babies pulling her like this, her neck got caught as she was wanted to jump through the window. Her neck got caught in this triangular space of the window. And she hung herself, and she died. And the babies were still nursing, so the babies would come up and they would try to nurse on the dead mother. And they eventually had to bite the nipples off and eat that carcass of their own mother. And this is a real monstrous example. Okay. So I mean, right there, don't use those windows, ever, okay? But what I'm trying to say with this is, you have a bunch of toddlers that don't know what they're doing, like baby kittens, they don't know what they're doing. In the same sense, if we look at it from the sky perspective, the psychopaths in the world, they don't know what they're doing. Jesus Christ even said that, they don't know what they're doing. Have mercy on them, because they don't know what they're doing, and they really don't, from the sky perspective, okay? But I'm not going to have mercy on them, of course. I'll have mercy on the kittens, because the kittens are totally innocent. They really don't know what else to do. They're in survival mode, okay? So an actual toddler, baby human, would also be in survival mode. Would probably not, I don't know. I don't think a baby human could actually, they would starve, I don't know. But they would also hit each other, I don't know. But they don't know, it's total chaos, right? But with the majority of people, psychopaths and sociopaths, whether they are running something as a manager, running anything, they'll be regarded as sociopaths, but I still regard them as psychopaths, because their violence may not be right in your face, but it is a violence, it is a white collar violence. White collar, they call it white collar because they have a white shirt on that's clean. They're not down and dirty in the gutters, doing down and dirty, brutal things in the gutters. They do their brutal things from their legislative seats, okay, with clean clothes. That's why they call them that. Okay. And they're just as psychopathic, in my personal view. Paul will argue with me and say there's a difference between psychopaths and sociopaths. Yes, okay, we look at it from the definition of Merck manual or whatever, or the psychology spectrum of mental illnesses. But from my personal view, I label them psychopaths as well. I label everyone psychopath who is a cold-blooded, violent cluster B. Okay. And people who are in management and government, who are running things absolutely ruthlessly, like Mark Zuckerberg, for example, knowing that the way he handles things on Facebook causes teenagers to commit suicide, and he continues it. That's psychopathic. I'm sorry to say it, but it is. Okay. And that's absolutely ruthless and monstrous. So there's a lot of those people. So those, the white collar psychopath, and the blue collar, the worker psychopaths, all of them, they're all toddlers, just functioning in different ways. One group that isn't dirty and the other one is dirtier. So that's the only difference. The one has better grammar and the other one has bad grammar. But both groups extremely, absolutely no compassion, no empathy, and ruthless, violent, cold-blooded, acting out. Okay. And from the sky perspective, because Jesus Christ will say they don't know what they're doing because they are driven by that dualistic mind state. And Paul will get mad and say, no, you're making excuses for them. That's in their DNA. They are like this genetically. And of course they are. I'm not arguing with that. But they are like this genetically. That's their, if we want to call it, this is an understatement, of course. It's coping. We call it coping mechanism. It's strictly analyzed. It is a coping mechanism, but this is the worst coping mechanism, of course. To be ruthless towards other beings. Okay. That's the absolute worst coping mechanism and worst mental illness that exists. This is total insanity. Okay. This is total unwellness. Okay. So anyone who says to me, you're mentally ill, ha ha ha, look at you. Yeah, I am. I have OCD, I suffer, I have PTSD from childhood. Okay, I suffer with this. This is a lifetime work, okay, to get through this, to heal. But I have done a lot of healing already. So I have to do way more healing, and I'm pretty sure that I will never heal all of this before I die. So, and I don't have to, this is a journey. This is a school, really. This is also a soul school, of course. But my mental illness doesn't hurt anyone. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not hurting any living being. Okay. I'm a peaceful person. I could become very, very self-protective. By self-protective, I mean I include my family into myself. So protective of my family, of my family members' bodies and my own body. Very highly protective. And out of that protectiveness there can be violence coming out of this, but that is absolutely justified violence. This is one-on-one, a one-on-one war with a violent attacker. Okay, that could be also. There could be, if we have AGI robots, that violent attacker can be a white collar who arranges things for someone else to be murdered, hires a hitman to murder someone. So that's a war. It's a one-on-one war, and in that situation, we have the right to defend ourselves. Absolutely. A war that is between nations, that's a different story altogether. You are not being threatened by an individual from the other side. They just blindly go against your front, and you blindly go against them. That's absolute insanity. And also, a war like this is always, the dictators are using the soldiers as their pawns. They use them as their fighters to do the dirty work for them. That's always been like this. A king sits there big and fat in his pompous lifestyle, and he has his army go out there and do the dirty work against anyone who may be coming towards his country. But in the past, it was way closer to the one-on-one. In the very past, it was way more like it was more like a militia going against another militia, and they knew each other and they saw each other coming and so on. So that was much closer to that, what I'm talking about as a one-on-one war. Today, the wars that are fought, they're completely anonymous. People don't know each other. They know is, they have been told, they are this religion or they're that religion, and I am this religion, and those religions clash, and I am fighting for my religion or my nation. So that's a completely anonymous nation war that is absolutely unethical and unacceptable, and it is it's totally criminal and totally wrong, and they're using people, completely exploiting people to do their dirty work for them. And that's what actual nation war is about. It's about exploitation of the individual people that are brainwashed in order to drill them for that war. They're sicked on each other in that way. Okay, so question that and step out of it. Don't be part of it anymore. Anyone, everyone worldwide. And then we don't have to have war anymore. Then the dictators, the white-collar criminals, they don't have any more pawns than to fight each other. So the next stage is going to be, of course, AGI robots. And there may be some things that might be like Terminator that may happen, as long as people are like, if a white-collar criminal is still operating those, that's not good. That's not safe, of course. So we've seen this already. What Chelsea Manning was showing Julian Assange, and what together they leaked it out, they whistleblowed this out to the public, what was going on, what the US military was doing to people, to innocent civilians in the Middle East, okay, fueling that fire of hate, of course. That's what they wanted to do, because they want war, because then the weapon manufacturers can sell their weapons. That's all there is to it, nothing else. It's very, very pathetic, the whole thing. So, brave people, Julian Assange and Chelsea Manning, blew the whistle on that. They showed the public what they're doing. They're doing criminal acts in the military. And for that, they get incarcerated. Because we don't have justice in the world. Ruthless people are running things. The corporate agenda is running things. We don't have justice. And I'm deeply concerned about this. This is a very ruthless world that we live in, with animal exploitation and human exploitation, and unbelievable nation wars that are being fought for just dirty businesses, basically, for oil pipelines and oil drillings and oil rights and so on. Oil drilling, ownership and permissions and all of that. It's real, real awful what's happening. If you go to the military, you put your life at risk, you get killed for some Halliburton oil industry person like Dick Cheney and Barack Obama. That's what they are. It's sickening. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Despicable. So that's how far Cluster B has abstracted itself and compounded itself into such extreme abstractions and disconnect from the whole world, from all the other living beings. There are people that are doing this, and there are people that have leaked this out, that have worked for them. I saw all of this on the internet. That there are people that they're absolutely terrified to mention the names, because if they do, then these people know who they are. Masked people that with a disguised voice that have come out to the public and said, I've seen things that you cannot even wrap your head around. And they're afraid to actually say the names of these violent people, because once they say it, then these violent people know exactly who these whistleblowers are. We have a real strict network of informants, of internal intelligence operators. These really wealthy people, and who knows who they all are. They could be former apparatchiks, they could be... I'm absolutely certain it's not Vladimir Putin, but I'm sure that Volodymyr Zelensky is part of this, part of those ruthless people, and that are extremely wealthy, and they will go to a high, they will rent a whole hotel, and they hire good-looking people, and I guess they screen them also to make sure that they're greedy too, and that they're not do-gooders, because they don't want any do-gooder anywhere near them, because they're afraid of them. They're afraid that if that's a do-gooder, that do-gooder is going to blow the whistle on them. The do-gooder is going to intercept in some way. So they hire people who are very desperate for money and thinking about a career in with show business and so on. They get promised all of these things, of course. Teenage girls, runaway girls, will get swept up by those people. And all they have to do is bring me a 12-year-old girl. That's what they have to say. It doesn't matter what it costs. And the 12-year-old girl will be found somewhere through these ruthless middlemen, brought to them for, I don't know, $1 billion or whatever, or 500 million. It doesn't matter to them. They have so much money, they can just spend it like that. And they will then exploit that little girl, kill her, and cut her up and throw the body parts on the ceiling and all over the room. And that's what these people leaked out. And I want to zoom in on the psychology of those monsters that have, first of all, with such ruthlessness, accumulated that amount of money. I could never do this. I could never ever accumulate this kind of money with this kind of power, of legislative power, because the world is run by those kind of people, and I would never I would never have any dealings with those people in the first place. I could not. Okay. I couldn't. Okay. I do not have a price. I don't have a price tag. As Rockefeller said, that every man has his price. So it's not completely true. So there's a lot of women who have their price as well. And some just say, oh, I'm a hitman. I just charge more for this. So give me enough money, I'll do it. That's the majority of people. So anyone who thinks people are they're so inherently good or something. No, they're inherently corrupt. Okay, the human species is a corrupt animal, and they have abstracted themselves away from compassion. They have cognitively disconnected themselves away from any kind of empathy and kinship to another living being. So everything has become so remote and so abstracted that they don't have any relations to that other living being, the pig in the slaughter facility, or the little girl, the little child running away from a battering home where she's being beaten, just to end up in the hands of a hitman hired by one of the wealthiest people that have absolutely no empathy. And then what happens is they're sadistic also. What happens is that I guess deep down they know how disgusting they are with what they have done. So, and in order to cover that up, this knowing of this internal feeling, like, how they have made the money and what they have done to other living beings, that they want to cover that up with even louder noises, with even more horror films, and then it spills over into actual horror that they do with their own hands. And more and more sexual violence and bondage, and it just escalates. It just gets worse and worse and worse. I'm not talking about wealthy people. I'm talking about criminal people that are extremely wealthy. Not all wealthy people are criminals. There's a lot of wealthy people that are very, very compassionate. So as Paul said, and rightly so, in the wealthy areas, the dogs are living in the house with people. They're sleeping on the couch, they're sleeping in bed with them in the wealthy areas. Because those people have deep compassion, many of them. They're more educated, they're more attuned, they're more connected to the other. So they're not like Charles Manson, who comes from this elbow society of, if I don't beat that person, then he'll beat me, or if I don't do this, then the other one will do that. That kind of mind state, dualistic mind state. An empowerment mind state. So it's real serious. The kind of stuff that comes out of that, psychologically, it's just horrific. So they're all monsters. Charles Manson is a monster coming out of unempowerment feelings, and the ruthless, wealthy dictator or business person who is a criminal, who is also a psychopath. He has everything materialistic, what he wants, but there's total despair inside of him. Total despair. The inner child is in total despair of what has accumulated above that inner child. The exoskeleton that has grown above and around that inner child, that ruthless exoskeleton that does these unimaginable acts of cruelty and sadisticness. I'm trying to dig into this, so I don't understand it. That's why I'm tapping in the dark. I'm just trying to dig into it. I'm just trying to look into it. What causes these people to do these horrific things to other living beings? What causes people to stomp on a kitten? What causes people to, I don't even want to say it, to be sadistic towards animals and humans? What kind of pathology is happening in those brains? That is my question. How does it come to such an escalation of pathology? And I'm sure it's those people that will label me insane. Right? It's also those people that will call me Satan. You bet, Satan. Satan, the accuser. Yes, I'm accusing them. You bet I am. I am, and rightly so. So yeah, I am Satan, the accuser. That's all that means. It comes from Hebrew. The real horrific people, they twist everything around. The real horrific people will call a do-gooder horrific. It's all twisted, upside down and inside out. Question this. Pay attention. Start to pay attention to this. Do you believe someone who has an open face, like Elon Musk? Or do you believe someone who has this, like I can't even imitate it, who has a hidden face, like a snarly, like a, with scorn, with sarcasm, that kind of face? Who do you feel more comfortable with? So I guess the ruthless businessman, they want the dishonest person to work for them, because they know that the dishonest person is gonna take the bribe money and do whatever, cater to them. They want nothing to do with the honest person, with the do-gooder, because the do-gooder stands in their way. The do-gooder might intercept and blow the whistle, and then that's what's going on. And I want people to really become aware of this and look into it. Who is doing good and who is making the world worse? Okay. Peace and love for all living beings.